My girlfriend wants me to cancel my proposal for the surprise, but I've already planned and paid for everything. Hey Reddit. My girlfriend and I have been together for 4 years, and I finally decided it was time to propose. I planned everything down to the last detail: a beautiful venue, a professional photographer, and a ring I spent months picking out. I even got her parents' blessing, which they happily gave, and my own family was thrilled. Everything was set. But then, a week before the proposal, she caught on. She confronted me, not angrily, but with an amused frustration, saying she had a feeling I was going to propose soon. At first, I thought she was excited, but then she dropped a bombshell. She told me not to do it. Not because she didn't want to marry me, but because she wanted to be completely surprised. She said that if she saw it coming, it would take away the magic of the moment, and she would rather I push it back to a later date when she wouldn't expect it. I was completely thrown off. I had spent months planning this. I had coordinated with her family, mine, and even our closest friends. People had arranged their schedules to be there. The venue was booked and non-refundable. The photographer had been paid in advance. The ring was already in my possession. Canceling now wouldn't just be inconvenient, it would be a disaster. I'd tried to explain this to her, but she doubled down, saying that a proposal should be a complete surprise, not something she could anticipate. She insisted that if I loved her, I would understand why this mattered to her. I asked her why she was so against it happening now if she knew she wanted to marry me anyway. She said it was about the moment, about the story we would tell in the future. She didn't want it to be something she saw coming, because then it wouldn't feel as special. I tried to tell her that the thought, effort, and planning should be what makes it special, but she wouldn't budge. She told me if I went through with it, she might not say no, but she wouldn't feel the joy she wanted to feel in that moment. That hit me hard. It felt like she was putting the idea of a surprise over the reality of our relationship. I talked to her parents, hoping they would help me understand where she was coming from, but even they were confused. They had been thrilled when I told them about my plans, and they had no idea she would react this way. Her mother told me she had always imagined the proposal being a surprise, but she didn't think it was worth canceling something that had already been planned and paid for. My own family was equally confused. My sister outright told me it was ridiculous and that if my girlfriend cared more about being surprised than the actual proposal itself, then maybe I should be reconsidering things. I was torn. On one hand, I wanted this proposal to be something she would cherish forever. On the other hand, I couldn't ignore the fact that canceling would waste thousands of dollars and disappoint everyone who was expecting to be there. I tried to come up with a compromise. Maybe I could still propose at the venue but find a way to catch her off guard in a different way. But she rejected every idea, saying that as long as she had an inkling it was coming, it wouldn't be the same. This led to a huge argument. I told her I didn't understand why she was making this so difficult when it should be a happy moment for both of us. She said she just wanted it to feel right, and that if I respected her feelings, I would find another way. I countered by saying that if she respected my effort and commitment to this, she would understand why postponing wasn't an option. Neither of us backed down. I was now in a situation where I had to choose between honoring all the effort I had put into making this a beautiful moment for us, or canceling everything just because she wanted to be surprised. It felt unfair. I wasn't asking her to accept a rushed, sloppy proposal. I had gone out of my way to make it meaningful. But now, instead of excitement, I felt resentment creeping in. As the date of the proposal crept closer, I found myself at a crossroads. Do I go through with it despite her wishes and risk her being unhappy in the moment? Or do I cancel everything, eat the financial loss, and start over with no guarantee that she won't just find out again next time? I needed advice, because no matter what I did, it felt like I was setting myself up for failure. Update. After reading all the responses and thinking about it for a while, I decided to sit down with my girlfriend again and have an honest conversation. I told her that I understood her desire for a surprise, but I also needed her to understand that this wasn't just about her, it was about both of us. I explained in detail how much effort, time, and money had gone into planning this proposal, and how canceling it would not only be a huge inconvenience but also an emotional and financial loss for me. I told her that this wasn't just about the moment itself but about what it represented, my commitment to her, my desire to make this a special memory, and my belief that we were ready for this next step. She listened quietly, and for a moment, I thought she was beginning to understand. But then she shook her head and said that while she appreciated everything I had done, it still wouldn't feel right to her if she knew it was coming. She repeated that the magic of a proposal, at least for her, was in the complete surprise, and that if I went through with it now, she wouldn't feel the emotions she wanted to feel. She told me that she had always imagined her proposal as this completely unexpected, overwhelming moment that would catch her off guard in the best way possible. She insisted that if I truly wanted her to have the experience she dreamed of, I would be willing to wait. At this point, I felt frustrated beyond belief. I asked her if she really thought the idea of being surprised was more important than the actual proposal itself. I told her that it almost felt like she cared more about the fantasy of the proposal than the reality of us getting engaged. She seemed hurt by that and said that wasn't the case, but she still stood firm on wanting it done her way. This conversation left me feeling even more conflicted. I started questioning everything. Was I being selfish for wanting to go through with the proposal as planned? Or was she being unreasonable by making such a big deal about something that should have been a happy occasion no matter what? My family and friends were still on my side, all saying that she was overreacting and that I shouldn't have to bend over backward just to satisfy her idealized version of the moment. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if I did go through with it, she would always hold on to the fact that she wasn't surprised, and it would taint the memory for her. As the date of the proposal grew closer, I had no idea what to do. I had to decide soon, or everything I had planned would fall apart. I was stuck between wanting to make her happy and not wanting to completely disregard my own effort and emotions in the process. Another update. After much deliberation, I decided to have one last conversation with her, but this time, I went in with a different mindset. I told her that if this was really so important to her, I was willing to compromise, but she had to meet me halfway. I proposed an idea: what if I went through with the proposal as planned, but I incorporated some element of surprise into it? Maybe she knew the proposal was coming, but she wouldn't know exactly when or how. Maybe I could throw in a fake-out moment to catch her off guard. Maybe I could mislead her into thinking it was happening at a different time or place. She didn't like the idea. She told me that knowing even the general time frame would take away from the experience, and she wouldn't feel the same excitement. At this point, I was done trying to convince her. I told her bluntly that I had already invested so much into this, and canceling was no longer an option for me. I told her that while I wanted her to be happy, this was also about my effort, my emotions, and my intentions. I said that if she was so set on having this perfect, magical surprise moment, then maybe she needed to ask herself if she cared more about the proposal than actually getting engaged. This clearly upset her, and she told me that I was being unfair, that I was making her seem unreasonable when all she wanted was to feel the way she had always dreamed of feeling when she got proposed to. I told her that life doesn't always work out the way we imagine it, and sometimes, what matters more is the intention behind something rather than how perfectly it aligns with our expectations. We ended the conversation on a tense note. I could tell she was unhappy, and honestly, so was I. It felt like something that should have been a joyful occasion had turned into a stressful, emotional standoff. I started to seriously wonder if this was a sign of deeper issues. Was this just about the proposal, or was it about control? Was she unwilling to compromise now in a way that would set a pattern for the future? I hated thinking this way, but I couldn't ignore how this situation was making me feel. Final update. The day of the proposal arrived, and I had made my decision. I wasn't going to cancel. I had worked too hard, planned too much, and invested too deeply to throw it all away just because she wanted to be surprised. However, I was prepared for the worst. I had no idea how she would react, but I knew that if she was truly upset over this, then maybe we had bigger problems than I initially thought. Everything was set up perfectly. The venue looked stunning, the photographer was in place, and our families were there, excited and ready to celebrate. My heart was racing, not because I was nervous about proposing, but because I genuinely didn't know what her reaction would be. When she arrived, I took a deep breath, got down on one knee, and asked her to marry me. Her reaction? She hesitated. For a few seconds that felt like an eternity, she just stared at me. I saw the conflict in her eyes. She was happy, but she was also clearly struggling with the fact that this wasn't the surprise she wanted. Eventually, she said yes, but it wasn't the enthusiastic, overjoyed response I had hoped for. She smiled, hugged me, and put on a happy face for everyone there, but I could tell that something felt off. Later that night, when it was just the two of us, she finally admitted it: she was disappointed. Not in the proposal itself, but in the fact that she had seen it coming. She said that while she was happy to be engaged, she wished she had been able to experience the shock and joy of a completely unexpected proposal. I asked her if she truly felt that way, even after seeing how much effort I had put into making this special for her. She hesitated again, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. In that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just about the proposal, it was about how she viewed our relationship. She had an idealized version of things in her mind, and anything that didn't match that version wasn't good enough for her. It made me question everything. If she couldn't appreciate this moment for what it was, if she couldn't see the love and effort behind it, then what did that mean for our future? I didn't say anything then, but for the first time in 4 years, I had real doubts about our relationship. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I had made the right choice by proposing at all.